Hello there, gamers, and welcome to another edition of Random News of Gaming, the monthly gaming news series where everything is late, gay, and doesn't waste your time. Okay, listen, I'm in over my head with this one, chat. I can only do so much, so please, if I get something wrong, let me know in the comments. Some of these stories have conflicting information that's difficult to actually find the facts of. You'll see in a minute, but before that, don't forget to check out my Steam Curator if you want to keep tabs on any game featured on the channel and the release list. Also, feel free to tune into my streams if you feel like it. I'm getting back into the older Trails games, and I now have channel memberships enabled for only 99 cents, so you can spam some silly emojis in my streams and comments, and also, the more members there are, the more emojis I can add. Just saying. Also, I will probably be putting some of my old or outdated content, especially streams, behind this feature, so keep that in mind. With that out of the way, let's get into the garbage. The first major story is something that's kind of a political topic, and that's all the government-funded programs that have been slashed by the new administration in the US. So what does this have to do with gaming? Well, for a while, it was being spread around that USAID, one of the government funding programs, was a source of money for companies like Sweet Baby Inc. and Feminist Frequency, the latter of which, in case you forgot, was a hot garbage series of dishonest video game critiques whose owners kinda took the money and ran during the Gamergate days. As far as we know now, this isn't actually true. There's no actual evidence that any money actually went to groups like this. But that doesn't mean it didn't actually happen, of course, because that USAID money could have gone to a middleman before going to these organizations. We don't know for sure, I think. When trying to look this stuff up, I kept getting unrelated stories in the news search algorithms, so thanks for that, search engines. If you guys know any more info about this, feel free to drop it in the comments or share it in my Discord server. It was proven, however, that USAID money did go towards funding several mobile games as far back as 2012, which, as you know, as much as I love gaming, I'm 100% against government money going towards any form of entertainment, period. I don't think that's unreasonable. And that's probably the extent of the political opinion you'll get out of me for now. Some money did also go towards media outlets, some of which were pushing anti-Gamergate messaging for a long time. I hate using this site as a source, but it's the only one I found on the topic that focuses on gaming, so take it for what you will. Anyway, that's all for this topic. Warner Bros. Games is still in a world of shit, which isn't much of a surprise given the recent massive failures they've had. They announced in late February they are shutting down Monolith Productions, Warner Bros. Games San Diego, and Player First Games. Pretty massive cuts. If you don't know, Monolith was the developer behind the Shadow of Mordor series, as well as Fear, Condemned, and several others. But if you were a fan of those old games, I would not mourn this company's death, as the developers that worked on those games are most likely already gone from the company since it's been so long. Oddly, the announcement of these studios' closures actually correlated with an increase in stock value for WB. Interesting. Either those studios were floundering badly and really needed to go, or something else happened internally at WB for the increase. PlayStation Network went down again. Newsworthy? I think so, because it proved that our all-digital future is a major problem because people couldn't access a lot of their games, even physical ones. At least, if you hadn't connected the detachable disk drive version to the internet beforehand. Sucks to suck, I guess. And Sony was very quiet on what was happening, despite fears that it was a potential data breach, which, if it was, they need to be quick on warning their users so they can take adequate security measures. To this day, we still don't know what happened as far as I can tell, because there hasn't been an update other than an operational issue, which is only the most vague thing ever. The service was down for almost an entire day right at the start of the weekend, and most people won't be compensated for the inconvenience, other than PS Plus's highest tier, who got 5 extra days of PS Plus for free. Isn't that just great? Oh, and by the way, this is what PC gamers will have to deal with if the PlayStation Network is mandated on the games they sell on PC. I think this, among many other reasons, proves PC gamers were 110% justified in the Helldivers 2 backlash from last year, as well as pretty much all backlash Sony gets for requiring this shitty service. Nobody likes it on PC. We don't like DRM. We don't like Origin. We don't like Uplay. We don't like Epic Games. We don't like Microsoft Store and Xbox trash. We won't like PlayStation Network. Get over it. And let your customers in all those countries that don't have PSN play your games. Just do it. You're just incentivizing more piracy otherwise.
Get out of my sight.
Anyway, it's still the beginning-ish of the year, so major news probably won't ramp up for a while, so here's a roundup of shorter stories. Nintendo applied for 23 patents in an apparently obvious knock against Palworld and got rejected for 22 of them. These were all filed in the US too, so expect the whole Palworld lawsuit shitshow to go global, I guess.
I think it's time to move on, don't you?
Microsoft is experimenting with generative AI for creating video games. It's over, bros. Pack it up, game devs. No, I'm not even joking either. This will replace a lot of tedious work required for video games first, but eventually, if developers don't get on board with it, they will probably have to go indie. And I expect most consumers won't care that games aren't being handmade anymore. They will just consume the slop as they always do. The Entertainment Software Association announces E3. I don't know. The Interactive Innovation Conference for 2026. Basically going to be a successor to E3, held in Las Vegas rather than LA, which is probably a better place to do it due to costs. I don't think these events are necessary anymore, but if it gets enough traction, hopefully it will be better in some way than E3, but I doubt it since I don't think the interest will be as high. NVIDIA 50 series GPUs are having lots of technical issues, such as shipping defective and weaker than their specs or running way too hot, and allegedly catching fire in some rare cases. This is why you should always have a little patience before buying something like this. And having patience is going to be a theme in this video, just saying. Ass Creed Shadows just can't seem to stay out of the news. Not just because Ubisoft has utterly lost the plot and is now facing scrutiny by the Japanese government, but the entire game leaked online around February 20th, so if for some unimaginable reason you were looking forward to this game, be wary of spoilers, I guess. Limited run games shipping defective games once again. This time they sold NES cartridges of a Rugrats game that actually damage old consoles if you try to play it. So, once again proving that you should not buy stuff from this company at all. They can't seem to stay out of the news cycle because they keep shipping trash like this. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Monster Hunter Wilds were the two biggest success stories of last month, with KCD2 selling 2 million copies in the first week, and Monster Hunter Wilds selling up to 8 million copies in the first week, which is insane. Both of these games are not without their problems, however, and to be honest, I really don't want to talk about KCD2's drama. I really don't. Mostly just a bunch of tourists lying about the game before launch. As for Monster Hunter, its biggest problem is the PC port having a lot of technical issues for a lot of people. But hey, if you haven't bought either one yet, you already won, because if you do buy it in the future, you'll be getting a better version. Now it's time for Last Month in Localization.
Apply the sacred ointment, Popo.
And as you'd expect if you're familiar with the channel, yeah, we're talking about Trails again, and of course, we're talking about Nisa again. As you'd expect, the game is full of intentional mistranslations and errors per usual, like changing characters' names for arbitrary reasons, and the most viral line going around being this one, where Nadia says she wants to up her rizz. If you know as much as I do about this series, you could actually make an argument that Nadia would say something like this, and I could do that if I wanted, though it would be really far-fetched. Question is, can the localizers do the same? Or are they once again proving to not be able to stick to the source material, inserting themselves and their own headcanon into the game and characters, and once again, completely disregarding the fact that this series requires precise context for literally everything because of how this universe works? If you localizers cared about the series more than your own modern sensibilities, this controversy would not exist, and if you took honest feedback into account, maybe the series would be more positively received in the West. And I get it. A lot of the anti-localizer crowd are absolute dickheads, especially on the X-Twitter. But there's a reason this series is such a hot-button topic when it comes to localization. The fans who love it truly care about it and the continuity of the Trails universe, much more than other JRPG series. Because they've been on the ride for well over a decade, and have likely sunk hundreds, if not thousands of dollars into this franchise. Like myself, who no longer buys the Western versions because of all of this. Ignore that, by the way. Listen, I have my ways. By the way, I will be streaming Kai no Kaseki's fan translation whenever that is finished, which should be sometime pretty soon, just saying. Speaking of which, we have another fan translation released, and I'm gonna butcher this name, but Apare Den Fukuri no Shou, an old JRPG from the PC 98. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check it out. And if old gaming paraphernalia and history is your jam, there was an interesting thing that launched last month by the Video Game History Foundation, in early access right now, but you can go check it out for free. They have a massive digital archive of old video game artwork, magazines, strategy guides, ads, and more, so if you want to take a trip down memory lane, I'll have a link in the description. On the other hand, if you want to have a look at some upcoming games and stuff instead, we had a few showcases last month too. The Indie Pearls Awards ceremony on February 9th, which, of course, I don't know how legit these awards are, probably not at all, like all of them, but they did showcase a few new games here. The PlayStation State of Play on February 12th, which, per usual, was a nice showcase of games, but presented no reason to get on board with PlayStation. At all. They showed one exclusive VR title and showed a cinematic of one exclusive game at the end, but no gameplay. So no reason to get interested in it at all. The rest was third-party multi-platform stuff, so yeah, obligatory.
One game, I don't know why.
Black Voices in Gaming on February 21st. Moving on. Annapurna Interactive Showcase on February 21st. I forgot everything that happened at this event, but I think they showed off some games. ID at Xbox on February 24th. Same problem with this one as the PlayStation one, just further proving the Xbox console is worthless, especially if you have a PC. Unless you are a Game Pass addict and that's all you use, I guess. And last, and possibly least, Pokemon Presents on the 27th. Aside from them showing off Legends ZA properly this time, the rest of the showcase was mobile slop and non-gaming media. So yeah, it was a weak showing. But it may be because they're holding on to something for the Switch 2, which is just around the corner. Don't get your hopes up though. Keep your expectations low. It's the Pokemon Company after all. Now that all that's out of the way, time for the worst take of the month. And unfortunately, we didn't have a lot to pick from this time. Most of the usual suspects were just fighting with content creators or infighting for whatever reason, so we gotta find a different source this time. Special shout out to PC Gamer for damage controlling for Avowed and defending 30 FPS in the strangest way possible. If you really were PC gamers, or just gamers in general, you wouldn't do such a thing. But for the worst take of the month, there was a video going around that, on the surface, doesn't say anything too egregious, but completely fails to address the problems gamers have had in recent years. Your $70 Doesn't Buy You Cruelty by Mark Dara, former BioWare developer. This is a 14-minute video, so we'll only go over the main parts of it.
Again, I'm not saying you're not allowed to be angry about it. I'm not saying you don't get to express your dissatisfaction with the content of the game that you're not enjoying. But when you climb into someone's personal social media and start actively attacking that person, when you celebrate layoffs at a studio because the game that you don't like didn't do that well, you're crossing a line into being cruel. And fundamentally, you should have more grace for other human beings.
This here is the only part of the video where he actually describes something he considers cruel and differentiates it from criticism. Obviously, going after some random developer who's not calling the shots is not just a dick move, it's also pointless. But who's doing that? Where's your examples? Is their personal social media a private account or public? Is it still a bad thing if they were the ones who engaged in the conversation first? Where is the line? What if the developer is the one being the asshole, or in your words, cruel, in the situation? You don't even address this as a possibility in this video, but we've had plenty of examples of developers or the PR individuals of games being the ones who instigate the drama, not the fans. But you'll conveniently ignore this, of course.
But if you're not buying that, let's go on to point 2. You don't know what caused the results that you don't like. Let's go through an example. Let's say that you don't like the line delivery on a piece of dialogue. Is that the fault of the voice actor? It might be, but it could be a lot of other things too. It might be the fault of the person who was directing that voice actor. Maybe they were given very specific instructions to deliver the line in this particular way. Maybe the writer who wrote that line wanted it delivered in this particular way, and the stage direction specified this particular line delivery. Maybe the recording equipment at the voice studio went down, and the only take they managed to get was this first one that was done just to set the tone, and they were just kind of out of time and stuck with it. So if you go and you start attacking the voice actor for a line delivery you don't like, it might not be them at all. It might be something else.
All of this is why I think he's conflating cruelty with criticism. I understand that gamers are probably way more in tune with how things are made than other media fans, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to the vast majority of gamers is the end product. How you get there is your problem. We literally cannot do anything to solve any of these issues you are describing, so they are not our fucking problem. If you drop a busted game we unknowingly waste our money on, are we just supposed to shrug it off and forgive you because your equipment was bad or whatever? No, not my fucking problem.
If you need to complain at a human being, I'm going to say you don't get to go lower than the first person in the credits. You can go higher than that, but no lower than that. The first person in the credits is the person who was, theoretically at least, in charge of the project. They are the person where at least some of the responsibility is going to lie. Now, did they have full control over what was going on in the project? No, because you could still have the CEO of the company forcing them to use his stupid nephew as a script consultant. But at the very least, they were in charge of the project for a somewhat significant percentage of the time. So if you are mad about Anthem and we look at the credits, no shit, that's me. But yeah, if you feel like you need to yell at somebody for the way that Anthem is, it's much better to be yelling at someone like me who was theoretically in charge of the project, or at least in charge of the project for some of the development time, than yelling at someone who was working on the combat or the level design or whatever. Because again, you don't know exactly what their reality was.
I would not have a problem with the advice of going after the people in charge, but in my experience, they don't listen, they don't care, and generally, they pawn off their responsibility of taking feedback onto some community manager or PR person, so they don't have to deal with it. And those community managers or PR people, as we've seen in recent years, tend to act on their own whims and sensibilities, ignoring any feedback that doesn't fit with their own whims or sensibilities, and making the people in charge look even worse. So, what are we even supposed to do? There is nothing except to take to social media, review sites, and whatnot, and make it into a shitstorm because you, the developers, which includes the higher-up directors you want us to contact, will never listen otherwise.
When I was an executive producer, I got paid pretty well. And to some degree, from my perspective, some of that compensation was to act as a lightning rod for this negative discourse. It's one of the reasons why I think it is an executive producer's responsibility to have a social media presence. So if you feel the need to yell at them, again, probably don't, but they're big boys and girls, so they should be able to handle it. Now, the reality is, most of those people do not have a social media presence, do not have a way that you can yell at them directly. So a lot of times what I'm telling you is the least senior person you're allowed to yell at is the executive producer, and a lot of times the most senior person you're going to be able to yell at is the executive producer. So once again, the executive producer serves as a lightning rod for all this vitriol.
So you're belittling everyone under the producers and directors as sensitive, fragile children who can't take criticism. Got it. I mean, what else am I supposed to take away from this? You describe the higher-ups as the big boys and girls, so clearly everyone else are the little boys and girls, right? So fucking patronizing, I can't.
But don't worry, you don't need to go onto their Twitter channel and yell at them directly, because they're going to hear it anyway. Be a human being, have some empathy, and stop being cruel. stop throwing a party because a bunch of people lost their jobs. Because you don't know the circumstances that resulted in the thing that you're mad at. People deserve some grace. People deserve some empathy from you. And if you can't provide that, then stay off the internet completely.
It should be mentioned that the people who are actually cruel to developers are an extremely small minority, and here you are portraying this like a massive problem that the entire gaming community needs to address. Cherry picking or straw manning, take your pick. That can sum up this entire video if you wanted to be only slightly uncharitable. Maybe if you and the other executives and higher-ups actually took the time to try and understand what gamers are complaining about, the Western industry wouldn't be in such a sorry state like it currently is. Maybe take a note out of Capcom and Koei Tecmo's book, who actually sent out user surveys to get real data on what their actual customers want, and look at how their games have been performing lately. It's such a simple step in the right direction any company can take, but so few of them do. Just make sure fucking Twatter or Blue Scum or whatever isn't the main source of your feedback loop. You will get the wrong data every time. Also, another reason I think this video is dishonest and just damage control for the industry's poor recent releases is the way he's engaging with criticisms of his own video. Replying to pretty much every single comment with dismissive copy-paste responses that look like bot replies. Why? Just don't engage. That's better than faking it. It's almost like it's what you did with this whole video anyway.
Come on over here. Come on over here. No, you flipped me off. Come on, coward. No. Come on. You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
And with that, time for some releases. Finally. I totally didn't miss anything, so we can get into the actual news of games that actually come out. Starting with, on February 4th, one of the games we talked about earlier, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Okay, fine, I'll talk about it, but only in the context of what you should do as a gamer. From what I've heard, if you like the last game, you'll like this one. That's pretty much all you need to know. As far as the drama goes, most of it was spurred on by people who don't give an actual fuck about the game, or gaming in general. Tourist activists. The main character having a gay option is not a negative. There is no downside to having options. One black NPC in a medieval Europe setting is not so unbelievable to the point the game should be rejected. You need to see the context for yourself before you decide if this is proper inclusion and not just tokenism. Wait. If you haven't played the game yet, you already won. You don't need to make a decision before a game comes out. Obviously, this video is late on this story by a lot, but most of this drama happened prior to the game's launch. You only stand to win as a gamer when you wait. Don't get caught up in these culture war, drama farming talking heads nonsense on the internet. They only want to keep you miserable by making you angry at shit that isn't important, so you keep funding their nonsense, even if they have to lie about it. For example, no, there is no actual pedophilia in this game, you retards. The actual truth will come out eventually. Just wait. Next game, Rift of the Necrodancer on February 5th, a follow-up rhythm game to the cult classic Crypt of the Necrodancer. Rock out with your necro cock out. Big Helmet Heroes on February 6th, a co-op beat-em-up that kinda looks like a 3D Castle Crashers. Seed of Pandora, Legend of the Gaia Tree on February 6th, an old-school style JRPG. Unfortunately, it's not heading in the reviews, but maybe keep an eye on it. Astral Throne on February 7th, a grid-based roguelite strategy RPG. Fire Emblem for rogues. Los Pingheros on February 7th, a multiplayer party brawler game where you play as goofy little penguins. Ember on February 8th. Yeah, you know, that guy on Twitter, Grums, his game is finally coming out. And coming hard. Yeah, okay, this is just an asset flip porn parody game, but I think it's still funny. Civilization 7 on February 10th, the 7th entry in this long-running turn-based society builder. Unfortunately, this one is reported to have a lot of problems and has Denuvo. Definitely wait on it. Reality Break on February 10th, a roguelite top-down space shooter where you bend reality to your will, or something. Metal Suits Counterattack on February 12th, a 2D platformer and shooting game where you play as a cyborg out for revenge. Mind Over Magic on February 12th, a colony sim where you build up a magical academy and fight magical abominations in tactical combat. Warriors Abyss on February 12th, a Dynasty Warrior spin-off roguelite with top-down action combat. Now you can slash through armies endlessly. Forever. Dawnfolk on February 13th, a tile-based roguelite city builder strategy game, just in case something like Against the Storm is too much for you, I guess. Guns of Fury on February 13th, a retro-style platform shooter like Metal Slug, but in a Metroidvania. Project Tachyon on February 13th, a roguelite shoot-'em-up with an anime style and Sigma energy, because the main character is called Sigma. The Legend of Heroes trails through Daybreak 2 on February 14th. We talked about it earlier. Don't play this unless you've played the previous games in the series, and if you don't like the localization, get the Asian release that's also on Steam and use the fan translation patch. Tomb Raider 4 through 6 remastered on February 14th. Yep, just like the previous remasters of 1 through 3, you can now get the next 3 games remastered with the same quality by the same team. However, there is a controversy surrounding this release too. While they decided to forego the pointless trigger warning like the first collection, this time they did change a few of Lara's outfits, and people are quite mixed. Fortunately, since they let you use the original graphics while playing and those remain unaltered, this doesn't qualify as censorship in my opinion, but it is unfaithful, and since they set out to basically make a one-to-one recreation of the game, they should do that for every part of it without exception. No, it doesn't matter that Lara was 14 or 16 or whatever in that segment. She's not real, retard. Either stick to it or don't. But since it's only the remastered graphics that got this and not the original, I don't see it as a major issue anyway. Snow Ultimate Freeriding on February 17th. If you wanted to ski free, now you can, I think. It says it's open world at least. Avowed on February 18th. It's the alleged Skyrim killer action RPG. Okay, do I need to get into the drama with this game too? I didn't talk about this game earlier because it seems to have released with a whimper, with pretty low player count compared to its peers. Nothing really newsworthy to talk about. Honestly, ever since the first gameplay reveal, I've been saying this game looks mid as hell, and based on what people are saying about it, seems I was right on the money. Again, if you waited, you won. According to reviews, it feels less alive and immersive than similar games like Skyrim and Oblivion that came out over a decade ago, with a much bigger budget and development time. But comparing it to Skyrim and Oblivion is not a proper comparison either from what I've heard, so I don't know, I haven't played it. But the game itself has nothing to do with the internet drama. It has everything to do with immature developers not knowing when to not tweet and insulting their critics, regardless of how stupid some of them may be, when they should be trying to sell them the damn game. Just shut the fuck up on Twitter. That's all you have to do. It's not hard. Anyway, Microtopia on February 18th. Become the hive mind of mechanical ants in this automated colony sim. Cabernet on February 20th. For all you goths out there, become a vampire in 19th century Eastern Europe in this narrative sim. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii on February 20th. If you're a fan, you probably already have it. Action pirate game better than Skull and Bones despite being goofy as hell. Also, it has Denuvo. Longvinter on February 21st. Ever wanted a multiplayer Animal Crossing-like game where you can use guns, cause chaos, and steal from your friends?
I just want to attack other people.
Whisker Squadron Survivor on February 21st. A Star Fox-looking rail shooter game, but you're a cat this time. Do a box roll. Monster Hunter Wilds on February 27th. If you wanted it, you probably already have it. Or you were the smart one, saw that Denuvo tag and decided to wait because this game apparently runs like shit on PC. So better wait for multiple patches. Like I keep saying, if you wait, you win. And there you have it. Not as much as last month, but that's okay. Less editing for me. Remember, you can always keep up with almost every game covered in this series by following my Steam curator, link in the description. I have a few videos coming out soon, including a video about Smash 6 and a stupid video about Legend of Nayuta, which I also recently played on stream. They'll be done whenever. I also still have a top 10 video game music covers planned, but it's proving tough to put together, so in the meantime, you can always check out my old top 10 videos, like my games of 2024, my Zelda moments, or my favorite soundtracks. Feel free to tune into my streams every Monday where I get my ass kicked in Smash Bros, or any other stream where I play whatever I feel like my current run of Trails from Zero on Nightmare Mode. Don't forget to leave a like on this video, or a dislike if you're a sensitive little boy or girl. Just kidding. There are no girls that watch this content. Subscribe for more mid. Share the video around to anyone you think may enjoy it. Follow me on the X Twitter for no interaction whatsoever. Or catch my video content on Rumble or Odyssey. And as always with this busted industry, have high standards, low expectations. And also, have a little patience.
For the love of God, wait.